It's FANMAIL Friday, and you asked, how do you replace Taylor Ward's 36 home runs? Well, we've got some good news. We've got some answers.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and the #1 sports podcast network in all the land. Now, Taylor Ward has been traded, and his offensive production, it will be missed. So how are the Halos going to make up for that? You asked about the pros and cons for the Ward and Rodriguez swap. Does it free up the Angels to spend some more money? Plus, our everydayers are making trades on their own and making some moves that we really like. We'll share those with you. Before we get to the Angels, let's thank our sponsor, Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
Happy Friday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is Jon, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother Jon. Jon, that's a cool hat.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, if you guys remember, we were invited to be part of the first ever MLB Fan Council. And over the last few months, we've been meeting once a month with them to discuss what did we talk about in our very first meeting, Mike, was the automated strike zone and whether the challenge system was going to be put in play. And we were able to kind of say, like, yeah, that's definitely coming. And then it was confirmed that it was coming. So we've had some great conversations over the last few months, and they sent us some merch. So Thank you to MLB for sending this cool fan council hat. Thank you for sending me one that fits my giant head as well.
You notice that I'm not wearing mine.
There you go.
My head is way too big, although they sent us a bat and they sent us an official ball with the Fan Council logo on it. So thank you for that. It was really great to sit on that council, and I'm glad they listened to us, and they're going to put the automated balls and strikes into play next.
They're gonna make Artie sell the team too. No,
that's coming next.
Yeah, we're gonna really push for that. Hey, listen, we wrapped up our 4th season talking Angels baseball with you here on Locked On Angels, and we're getting into the offseason. Lots to discuss as always, including our favorite day of the week, which is FANMAIL Friday. Mike, we are here Monday through Friday for you through the offseason, but because it's Friday, let's get into some questions. And a lot of people had thoughts regarding the trade between Taylor Ward and Grayson Rodriguez, between the Orioles and the Angels. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, E. Hoffman1 on Instagram was wondering, so we upgraded the pitching, which we were desperate for, but how do you replace 36 home runs? Great question. There's a couple of angles that you could take at this, Jon. Why don't you share the first angle?
Yeah, so if you consider how valuable each of Ward's 36 home runs was, there were 22 home runs with the bases empty. So that means 22 solo home runs. There were 10 2-run home runs. 2 home runs were 3-run home runs, and 2 home runs were grand slams. If you remember that awesome grand slam in San Diego, that was a lot of fun early on in the season. So let's add up the RBIs Ward got from home runs versus the rest of his 103 RBIs. 34 RBIs came from home runs with runners on. 22 home runs came from, 22 RBIs came from solo home runs. Nobody on base, Mike. 56 RBIs from home runs. That accounts for 54% of Ward's RBI total. Again, 103. 47 of his RBIs came from hits that weren't home runs, so single, double, triple, whatever. 46% of Ward's RBIs were just from non-home runs. Now listen to this. 61% of Taylor Ward's home runs were solo shots. So, in other words, 21% of his RBIs came from solo home runs. Now imagine, as I'm pacing the pews in a church corridor, no, I'm just kidding. Now imagine if Ward had hit more home runs with runners on base, right, Mike?
Yeah, that's the key. The Angels' poor on-base percentage was a big issue. They had a .298 on-base percentage, 27th in baseball last year, an 8.1 walk rate, which was 21st in baseball last year. So to answer E. Hoffman's question, how do you replace 36 home runs? Part of the answer is that you make home runs more valuable by, getting runners on base. This team was terrible at doing that. They weren't able to get on base, and so they didn't take advantage of Taylor Ward hitting home runs. I mean, he only had 103 RBIs, so that's the problem. A lot of home runs, but not knocking in runs with those home runs. And another part of that is how much benefit it would have benefit Taylor Ward if there were runners on base and he was batting cleanup. That really, there wasn't a benefit there because, again, the 1 through 3 hitters weren't on base too often to get knocked in by Taylor Ward and one of his home runs.
Yeah, exactly. So when you consider this question, how do you replace 36 home runs? Well, really, it's how productive are those home runs and how many RBIs is he driving in with those home runs? So the bigger question here is, yeah, home runs are great, but how do you up his RBI total? Because that's really the bread and butter to this answer. Mike, I want to compare Ward's RBIs and plate appearances from the cleanup spot versus some of the other guys around the league. So Taylor Ward actually had the second most plate appearances as a cleanup hitter in Major League Baseball last year at 419. I think Josh Naylor was number 1. And from the cleanup spot, Ward produced 70 RBI. So that's about 1 RBI for every 6 plate appearances. What about someone like Riley Green, Mike?
Yeah, 396 plate appearances, batting cleanup, 76 RBIs. That's 1 RBI per 5.2 plate appearances. Pete Alonso, 364 plate appearances at cleanup, 67 RBIs, 1 RBI per 5.4 plate appearances. And Junior Caminero, 236 plate appearances, 41 RBIs at the cleanup spot, 1 RBI per 5.8 plate appearances.
So all told, Taylor Ward's production was one of the higher ones. He had 70 RBIs. Riley Green had 76. He had more than Taylor Ward there. However, it was the least efficient per plate appearance. Again, 6 plate appearances equated to 1 RBI for Taylor Ward out of the cleanup spot. Now, to be fair, it's not always Taylor Ward's fault because, again, you've got to have runners on base to get an RBI unless you hit that solo home run. But it could indicate the Angels might be able to do better with whoever they decide to use out of the cleanup spot. Mike, there's a second way to look at this, and that is your favorite, run prevention, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my new favorite stat around here. Ward's RBIs added to the Angels' run total, but Grayson Rodriguez erases runs from the opposing team, so also known as runs against. You've traded offensive output for preventing runs. One guy built your lead, the other protects your lead. So will the Angels have enough to create the lead? That's really going to be the question. I think what everybody's wondering about, like the home runs and the RBIs. But the thing that the Angels did more often than not, and I was sharing that with an everydayer yesterday, we went to lunch and had a great conversation. John, they score 5 in the first inning, and then the very next inning, the team they're playing would score 5, right? Yeah. And so run prevention is something that Perry is prioritizing so far with this trade. And I think he needs to prioritize it even more because run prevention is what's going to allow you to be in a game and to win some games, right?
Exactly. And to add to that, you have to consider, like, home runs are fun, right? We get a home run at Angel Stadium, the fire pillars shoot up out of the rocks, and I've shared this story before, but it was the year they implemented the fire into the rocks. You and I and some friends were sitting like second or third deck in left field. We had no idea. And I think Mike Trout hit a home run and the fire pillars shot up and we could feel the heat all the way across the field. And we all turned to each other like dudes and just went, yeah, because it was so awesome.
I think what was helpful too is Song 2 by Blur.
Woo-hoo!
That was, they need to bring that back. I really like that.
Yeah. I like Bro Hymn in my opinion. I think they should bring that back too.
Nice.
Home runs are exciting. They're fun. Taylor Ward hit 36 of them.
Yeah.
But Mike, the Angels had the 4th most home runs in MLB last year and still ended up in last place. And other teams have done much more with far less. Let me give you this list. The Angels had 226 home runs. Again, 4th in Major League Baseball. But the Padres, Mike, way down at the bottom, had 152 home runs total. They made the playoffs. Cincinnati Reds had 167. They made the playoffs. The Milwaukee Brewers got all the way to the NLCS, 166 home runs. They made the playoffs. The Guardians, who snuck in and had an amazing run at the end of the year, 168 home runs. They made the playoffs. Mike, the Angels had, let's see, almost 60 to 70 more home runs than the 4 teams that I just listed, who all made the playoffs, while the Angels ended up in last place in the American League West. What does that tell you?
That tells you that home runs are great, but home runs do not win you games and get you where you're trying to go, the goal you're trying to accomplish. John, this isn't a comment about the everydayer E. Hoffman, that made this question or asked this question.
Oh, not at all.
But this is a comment. And what I'm about to say is a comment to what we've seen all year long. There were so many comments, tweets, posts about Taylor Ward. Well, that was a meaningless home run. Yeah, he hit a home run, but it didn't really do anything. Yeah. Now we've traded him away. And suddenly everyone loses their minds, right? And I get it. Like you have a great player who's been consistent. I understand the questions, and E. Hoffman brings a very reasonable question. But to freak out and say, man, what are they going to do about this guy? He was their best offensive player, and I don't understand. Well, back it up real quick. That didn't get them anywhere. And now they're trying to build a complete team. I would take, and we've talked about this on the show, I'll take less home runs, a Joe Adell 25 home run season with a 250, 260 batting average, and we're in the playoffs, rather than a Joe Adell almost 40 home runs with a 230, 220 batting average. I'll take the same thing with all the players across the board. I'll take Mike Trout hitting just 20 home runs, but playing in every game, and we're in the playoffs, rather than a Mike Trout 45 home run MVP season. I'm tired of MVPs. I'm tired of single season awards.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
I'm tired of all of that. I want to win, and I want to root for a winning team. So if it means that we don't have too many woohoos next year, and we have more doubles, singles, moving runners over, productive at bats, less strikeouts, and we're getting wins, and we're preventing runs, and we're sniffing the playoffs, or maybe even getting in the playoffs, sign me up. That's what I want. And I think that this allows a more complete team. I also think that Logan O'Hoppe is going to climb out of the hole that he's been in offensively this last year. I also think that Zach Neto is going to continue to be Zach Neto. And I also think Nolan Shotwell is going to take a step forward. I don't think that that's hopium, John. I think that that's what they've shown us, and they're going to continue to move forward. I think that we're going to see a more complete team, a more disciplined team. That's going to be something that I think Kurt Suzuki can bring. The other thing that really leans into Taylor Ward not being here in the home runs, and how do we replace that? Sounds like the offensive philosophy is going to change, and that's going to change how Taylor Ward would approach the at-bat in the game. Yeah. And maybe he doesn't even, if he stayed with the Angels, maybe he doesn't get to 30, 36 home runs next year. Sure. Maybe he only gets to 20, 25, which has kind of been his average over the last few seasons. So the offensive approach is going to change. So I don't even think Taylor Ward would hit the home runs that he would hit last season. Not that he's regressing, but it's because the offensive approach has changed. I hope it does, because I think that that's how the Angels get to the playoffs.
Yeah, they got to stop emphasizing the home run and do the small things. Like we always say, the boring, quote unquote, fundamental baseball. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, what are the pros and cons to this trade? Will it open up some spending? Will already open up that wallet and into the wallet and try to get that open? We're going to talk about all of that coming right up.
Going to an NFL game is so exciting. It goes by so fast. If you've ever been to a game, you know this. It's not like a baseball game. Baseball, it's slow and methodical, enjoyable and fun. An NFL game feels like you're fast forwarding or hitting the skip button to get to the end, because it's just constant action. So I love going to an NFL game, but man, getting tickets is so difficult. There's queues, login screens, prices jumping at checkout, super frustrating, plus all the bots and all of that nonsense. I don't like it. That's why I love Game Time, and that's why you'll love Game Time as well. Giving the advantage back to you, the fan. It's fast, easy, and it's backed by the Game Time guarantee. You're always going to get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. Plus, the fees, they're included. So at the very end, the price you see is the price you pay. There's no secret fee. There's no hey, just because you smiled while you were doing this. There's none of those fees, right? It's faster, it's cheaper, less stressful than any other way to buy tickets. So download the Game Time app today, create an account, Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Some terms do apply. Again, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, and go. Download Game Time today.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Podcasts the #1 sports podcasting network out there. And it's because of everydayers like you that make it happen. Hey, if you want to keep up with us, of course, you can listen to us wherever you get podcasts. And you can also watch us on YouTube or on your smart TV. And then you can hit us up on social media like our everydayers did for FANMAIL Friday, at Locked On Angels, at Super Halo Bros. Let's keep the conversation going wherever you like to social your medias.
Carlos17 Vega on Instagram continues our FANMAIL Friday questions. He asked this: what are the pros and the cons with the Ward trade? Of course, Taylor Ward traded for Grayson Rodriguez. A lot of people wondering about why, wondering about what it means. Really good questions. John, what are the pros and cons? Why don't you start with the pros?
Yeah, I'll start with the pros. We get a frontline starter in Grayson Rodriguez when healthy. Now, all indications are he's going to be able to come into spring training and have a normal spring training. He had that cleanup in his elbow back in August, so he should be ready to go. Mike, it helps with the logjam of outfielders by subtracting Taylor Ward because, again, we have Joe Adell and right. Right now, as it stands, Teodosio in center. You've got Jorge Soler and Mike Trout using the DH role. It also may be playing left field. I'd like to see something happen there because I think Teodosio would make a great fourth outfielder and a defensive replacement. And that's TBD, right? That could still happen. Mike, they dropped about $13 million in payroll and, more importantly, luxury tax payroll by moving Taylor Ward. And that opens up more options in free agency and even trades, because now you're able to take on maybe a more expensive contract or maybe two contracts rather than just one. So that's going to be really interesting to watch. Mike, they finally traded an expiring deal and got a controllable player, and specifically a controllable pitcher in return. They're finally not getting, quote unquote, not getting nothing for Taylor Ward and just letting him walk at the end of 2026. Mike, they get 4 years of Grayson Rodriguez. He's pre-arbitration right now, so he doesn't even cost $1 million yet. So even if this year is just him recovering, finding it again, they do have 3 more years after that for him to get right and get to the kind of player and pitcher that he can be. He's only 26 years old, so that's fantastic as well. The rotation has 2 lefties and 2 righties in there right now, so I think that's to their advantage. They obviously need a 5th starter. When he was sent down to the minors in 2023, remember, he started out the year with the Orioles in 2023, did not look good, struggled, and just didn't have it. He came back that July, Mike, and finished out the year with a 2.58 ERA. So if you remove who he was before he was sent down and just count the part of who Grayson Rodriguez was when he came back, that was a 2.58 ERA. And then you combine that with his 3.86 ERA in 2024, that altogether is a 3.35 ERA. So since July 17th of 2023 through July 31st of 2024, he put up a 3.35 ERA as a starting pitcher. Taylor Ward, let's talk about it. We love the guy. He's got a great attitude, been a great player. He came up with the Angels. That lackadaisical play in left field is not something that we're going to have to watch anymore. We're not going to have to watch him take strike 3. He played it very safe in left field. He allowed runners to take an extra base more often than not. And then Mike, Ward is really great, but he's very, very streaky. He's on fire when he's on a hot streak, right? We saw that throughout 2025. When he's on, but then he gets ice cold when he's on a cold streak. So we don't have to deal with the streakiness of Taylor Ward. Again, great player, great person, and certainly productive as a hitter, but the streakiness was always difficult to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, what's cooler than being cool? Taylor Ward, do when he gets really cold, do you like that? He can be bad, but he also can be really, really good. So those are some of the pros. Here's some of the cons. Rodriguez's availability Will he be healthy, especially this year, right? He says he is. Perry says that he is. Even the Orioles said that they counted on him being healthy. He certainly will be on an innings limit, though, in 2026.
Yeah, for sure.
You have surgery like that, you get it cleaned up. They're not just going to let him go full bore. They're not going to have him go 150, 170 innings. So probably the max might be 120, 130, maybe 140 if it's a really good year. They're going to watch him like they watched Jose Soriano. There might be times where he doesn't start. And they skip him, and they were able to just keep the rotation in order, or they might bring somebody up like a Walbert Arena or a Caden Dana to fill in. So keep an eye on that. We do lose Ward's offensive production, 36 home runs, 103 RBIs. And like we mentioned in the first segment, who will be the new cleanup hitter? We don't know. And we also need guys to get on base before that new cleanup hitter is there. And Rodriguez, is he going to prevent runs? That's the other question that we have. Ward, he's going to do well with the Orioles, but he won't be, quote unquote, the guy. He'll be surrounded by really good young talent. And when he is not the guy, he can be a really good piece. Now, remember, he was on fire when he was just one of three with Trout and Ohtani in 2022. So I think if you get him around some good players, he's going to be a good bat, and I think also a great clubhouse guy as well. We lose a reliable player who's played at least 150 games in the last 4 years, and the time that Ward has been hurt wasn't his fault, really, because it was when he got hit or when he ran into a wall, and that's part of his defense, and I get that, but it wasn't because his body was breaking down. It was because that wall jumped out and got him, right? Or that ball hit him, and it hit him square in the face. So that's the cons of losing Taylor Ward and gaining Grayson Rodriguez.
Yeah, Taylor Ward, he was never out for back soreness or an oblique injury, right? It was always something that happened to him, really, like that Alek Manoah sinker that hit him in the face right when he was starting to heat up in 2023. So very frustrating. Mike, these two questions kind of fit together. So Jeffrey, I want to make sure I'm saying this right. Jeffrey Bailau on Instagram asked about where the Angels stand, like payroll wise, and if Artie will spend to win. And then Easton Dutton on Instagram said, what do you think the odds are with all the money we have that we get a true ace? So let me take you through where the Angels stand payroll wise. This is according to FanGraphs roster resource. That's the one I trust the most. I know Spot Track's great too, but I find the numbers are more accurate with roster resource. So the estimated actual payroll currently stands at $166 million. Last year, the Angels payroll stood at $206 million. So they've got about $40 million before they even reach the spending totals from last year. More important than that is the luxury tax payroll. That's essentially the average yearly value of all the contracts on the team. So player might make a certain amount one year and then make more the next year. But if you take the average of what he makes every single year of his contract, all of those years or totals add up to the luxury tax. So right now the Angels sit at $181 million for the luxury tax payroll. And the first penalty where they would have to pay if they go above it is $244 million. So that means that they're about $63 million under the luxury tax. So that's a very good place to be.
So to address the question, will Artie spin to win? Will they add an ace? There really isn't too many true aces in this free agent class. There's good arms. Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez, Dylan Cease, Michael King, Zach Gallen, Lucas Giolito, Zach Littell, Chris Bassett, Merrill Kelly. They're all out there. Now, the first five names I mentioned, Valdez, Suarez, Cease, King, and Gallen, they all have a qualifying offer connected to them.
Yeah.
So you're going to lose a draft pick if you sign one of those guys, and they're probably going to be a hefty price tag. If we were to get anybody, I would say it's probably going to be from the second half list where we mentioned Zach Littell, Chris Bassett, and Merrill Kelly, and maybe even Lucas Giolito, but I don't know if they would go back to the well on that one. So it doesn't seem like Artie would pay to get one of these guys, and these guys really don't qualify as an ace under the definition of how we see an ace.
Yeah, I think that they're going to avoid those qualifying offer guys, and we might even see another deal, a trade to get a good arm, a significant arm. But also, Mike, I mean, we've brought up Tyler Mahle in the past. I think that at this point, if you just add a capable arm, like a Zach Littell or a Tyler Mahle, think you're going to have a pretty solid rotation. Is it going to be playoff championship worthy? Well, there's too many questions because of Reed Detmers, because of, Grayson Rodriguez, right? There's too many questions around this rotation that would make us sit here and go, yeah, easy, best rotation in baseball.
Yeah.
But the thing is that by adding a Grayson Rodriguez and then maybe adding somebody who can keep the walks down and the innings up and get you some bulk innings, I think they'll be in a pretty good place. It just depends on which direction that they want to go.
Hey, basketball fans, there's no better place to get in on all the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything right now, from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game really exciting, especially when your team's making a late push. Right now, if you're a new customer, FanDuel's offering $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And your first bet is going to win because you're a smart fan. We know this. So head to FanDuel.com, sign up today, and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Mike, we've got more everydayer moves in terms of trading and signing. And so let's hit up a voicemail we got. I'm really excited about this one.
Hey, Mike and John, this is Cyrus from Costa Mesa. I'm 14 and calling for FANMAIL Friday. I listened to both of your GM episodes, and they inspired my own quick offseason plan. Tatsuya Imai on a 5-year deal, Harrison Bader for 2 years, and trading Soler and Kyron Paris for Mitch Keller, as well as trading George Clausen and Chris Cortez for Zach McKinstry. Then I'm adding Kenley Jansen and Weaver on 1-year deals, plus Luis Rengifo, Chris Taylor, and Andrew Chafin. Which of those moves feels most realistic, and which one do you like the most? Thanks. Love the show.
Cyrus in Costa Mesa. Thanks for giving us a call, buddy. Mike, he's out here making some moves during this offseason, and appreciate your GM picks. What do you think? He said, which ones do we like? Which ones are the most realistic to you, Mike?
I have a question about the Soler and Paris for Mitch Keller. I feel like that isn't going to be enough to get it done. I feel like there might be another arm or another young player that you're going to have to attach to that because it is the Pirates. Soler could add a lot of pop to their lineup, and they need that. And they've been known to go back to the well and get some young, or not young veterans, but old veterans that can bring some offensive pop. Kyron Paris is still a wild card. And Kyron Paris is somebody that you just don't know what you got until you actually play him. I feel like you would probably need to add an extra arm to that. Maybe a George Clausen, maybe a Chris Cortez, maybe a Caden Dana. That one feels like it's missing a little bit because I know Mitch Keller isn't like the rock star pitcher that he was a couple of years ago. And the Pirates can trade Mitch Keller and still have a solid starting rotation. But I would push back on that one a bit and say, we would probably need to add one more player in order to pull that off.
Yeah, I think what's most realistic out of his list, Harrison Bader for 2 years, that feels like something the Angels can and will probably do.
Yeah.
And so very, very realistic there in terms of Harrison Bader. Man, can you just imagine if we could get Tatsuya Imai? Like, I wish that would happen. Man, so much.
Talk about how to strengthen this rotation. That would be incredible.
Yeah. George Clausen and Chris Cortez. I don't think I would want to give them both up in the same trade. Like Zach McKinstry, but feels like a lot to pay for somebody like that. And then of course, hey, bring back Rengifo, bring back Chris Taylor, and bring back Andrew Chafin. That also feels very realistic to me too, right?
Yeah, certainly does. And then the Kenley Jansen move. I think you'll probably have to have 2 years for Kenley in order to get him back because he said he wants to pitch for 2 or 3 more years. And of course, Luke Weaver in the back of the bullpen. I think that is a really solid deal, but you'll probably need to add maybe a year or 2 to that deal in order to get him to Anaheim.
Absolutely. Hey, Tommy Lineman on YouTube, we actually got to meet him at the last game we went to, and he was excited to meet us. We were excited to meet him. And then we sent a video to his brother saying, "Where you at, bro? You're missing out." And so, that was a lot of fun. Here's what he had to say. He said, "Hey guys, another great episode of the podcast. I just love watching every day. I said this on Twitter, but in case you didn't see it, I figured I'd say it on here too. Just curious to what you think about my trade idea. instead of signing a center fielder, what if we traded for Jarren Duran of the Red Sox? He's a good fielder, a lefty bat. It seems like he's on his way out of Boston anyway. Don't really have a package idea yet to get him, but would that be the move you'd be interested in making? So why don't you give us a little rundown on Jarren Duran, Mike?
Yeah, here's his slash line from last year. 256 batting average, 332 on base, 442 slugging, and a 774 OPS. He had an OPS plus of 114, so that's good. 16 home runs, 84 RBIs, 24 stolen bases. Didn't play much center field in 2025 because of Rafaela, who is so much better out there than anybody on that team. But in 2024,
that's really the only reason he wasn't in center.
It wasn't because he was bad, right?
Yeah, Cedon Rafaela is just electric out there.
Because 2024, he had 17 defensive runs saved in center field across 810 innings. So you know that Rafaela is better if you're going to remove somebody with 17 defensive runs saved the year before.
Yeah, he walked about league average and struck out more than league average in 2025. He's going to make $7.7 million this year. He's got 2 more years of arbitration. He's a free agent after 2028, his age 31 season. Mike, if they were going to make this deal, what would the Red Sox want in return?
They're probably going to want young pitchers, and they're probably going to want young pitchers that are controllable and are already pitching. They're not going to want young guys in the minor leagues. They're going to want major league guys. So you're probably going to have to give up either Reed Detmers or Jose Soriano. They're going to want some bullpen help. The Red Sox are going to want that. So you're going to probably have to give up some of your current bullpen pieces, Sam Bachman, Chase Silseth, maybe a Jose Fermin, right? Maybe send them Ryan Zeffer-John back, right? Who knows? Yeah. And then a controllable pitcher, they're going to want somebody like a Caden Dana or a George Clausen. So I think it's going to cost the Angels either a Reed Detmers or a Soriano, one of their bullpen pieces, and then a guy that's in the minor leagues that's on the precipice of becoming a major league caliber player.
Yeah, it seemed like the consensus was somebody from the majors that is already pitching to be in their rotation in exchange for Jarren Duran. It feels like he's getting traded. Like it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. I don't know that the Angels would be in on him, but Mike, I'd take it. And,
I would too.
I know that it's pretty steep because, it would take a Soriano or a Detmers to do it, but you're exchanging, I think, the level of talent from pitching to hitting and also Duran's defense. I think you're exchanging pretty good stuff there. It's everything that comes after that feels like, oh, I don't know if I want to give that up because for the future, it'd be great to have. However, you are getting 3 more years of Jarren Duran if you decide to make that move. So, Tommy, thank you for bringing this up, and we'll see what happens with Jarren Duran this offseason.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Be sure to like and subscribe while you're here. It's the best way to stay updated on all things Angels throughout the offseason.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. And whether you're watching or listening, get into the conversation on YouTube and let's hear from you. We read all the comments. We do our best to respond to everybody as well. And sometimes they even end up on the show, whether it's a Fan Mail Friday or not. So lots of exciting stuff there. Mike, on Monday, we're going to get together with Connor Newcomb of Locked On Orioles and talk about this trade from his side of things. Maybe we can offer him a little wisdom on Taylor Ward. Maybe he can offer us some Grayson Rodriguez wisdom. What do you think about that?
I want to ask him about Mike Elias and if the Oriole fans are actually frustrated with him because it feels like they don't think he knows what he's doing. So with him as at the helm and trading for Taylor Ward and giving up a young arm, and they also have other players that they're like, we already have that kind of hitter here. I'm really curious to hear about how Taylor Ward fits, and I'm also curious to hear how he believes Grayson Rodriguez will fit here in Anaheim. We'll talk about that on Monday on Locked On Angels.
Yeah, so we'll get together with Connor Newcomb of Locked On Orioles. We'll have a fun crossover episode when we come back on Monday. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
All right, for all you sickos who love our Halos and for the everydayers who love to watch and listen, we'll see you back here on Monday. Hey, shout out Robert Gilmore, who loves the end of the episode banter. He wants more banter, Mike.
Robert.
More banter.
Robert.